Secretly recorded from deep inside the bowels of a decommissioned missile silo, we bring you the man, one single man who wants to bring light to the darkness and dark to the lightness. Although he's not always right, he is always certain. So now, with security protocols in place, the protesters have been forced back behind the barricades and the blast doors are now sealed. Without further delay, let me introduce you to the host of Hutcast, Mr. Tim Hutner.
Thank you, Sergeant at Arms. You can now take your post.
The views and opinions expressed in this program are solely those of the individual and participants. These views and opinions expressed do not represent those of the host or the show. The opinions in this broadcast are not to replace your legal, medical, or spiritual professionals. Welcome to Hutcast 12625, first one of the new year. I've been kind of holding off because we got some fireworks into play now. POTUS is in office. Joe had to go. Oh yeah, stand by. Let's spin this up a little.
This grilling season, take your taste buds to the next level. The sauce that'll change your barbecue forever. O. Eddie's Whiskey Bourbon Sauce is going to be at the Anoka County Fair. O. Eddie's Whiskey Bourbon Sauce is all about that split second when the tender meat and delectable sauce touches your taste buds. Don't believe me? Chef Richard Cooper is bringing O. Eddie's Whiskey Bourbon Sauce to the Anoka County Fair so you can taste it and become a believer yourself. O. Eddie's Whiskey Bourbon Sauce, the sauce that's worth the wait.
Happy New Year's, guys. Happy New Year's, happy Christmas, happy all that. Merry Christmas, and yeah, happy inauguration. Kind of a thing these days to see what's going on, isn't it, in the news? I mean, how do you focus on some things and try and get stuff done during the day? I'll tell you what, I don't care what side of the aisle you are on, we're here to talk about it. Thanks for tuning in to Hutcast. We're pragmatic is still pragmatic, and common sense should be a little more common out in the world. I don't know where you're from, but hey, we got the attention of a lot of dudes right now. A lot of governments, a lot of countries, and it says fourth day POTUS. We're going to use the name POTUS because if we use anything else, the filters on all the social media stuff starts to get weird. We all know who we're talking about, Mr. POTUS. Yeah. Okay, where do we start? 100 and some executive orders signed, some of which make a lot of sense. Some ain't going to make sense to a lot of people because they're not getting the chess move thing here that a lot of people in the government do. They pose, they prepare, they get things done. One thing I want to talk about is the Gulf of America. I didn't see that one coming. At all because I wasn't even kind of like in that mix of things. Gulf of America. Who would even think that you'd rename an entire body of water? Rightly so. It makes sense. It's in our purview. It's in our Gulf. It's in Mexico. But how he did it and why he did it. See, that's what I'm going to talk about here. See, a lot of people think this is just a overreaching Trump thing that Trump does, and POTUS does. And how he does the overreach and the pre-Hitler stuff. I don't get that. I mean, I wasn't around back then for Hitler days, and all I can do is read the history books that aren't going to be destroyed anymore because we ain't going to cancel culture anymore. But Trump, he does these things to people. He does these things to groups, companies. The Art of the Deal. If you haven't read it, download it, borrow it, read it. He gives you some insight of how he's thinking, even though it was co-written, or actually probably rewritten. But when you say Art of the Deal, to him, he don't want to. He ain't the kind of guy who wants to win because of the money. He's the guy who wants to win because the mental currency in his head is winning. If he won $1 on the deal, it would still be a win in his mind. It's the win. It's the endorphins releasing whatever to his thought pattern and what he lives in his life, whatever. That's what trips his trigger, whatever. Okay. Whether you ram a Deb, independent, don't mean much to me. You are who you are, and in this show, we'll take you, accept you for who you are. But when you do something of that scale, by simply renaming a Gulf of Mexico to Gulf of America, think about the implications on that worldwide. First of all, it's going to have ownership, possession to that. It's not going to be Mexico anymore. Mexican government. I don't even know if they were a part of renaming it, but it encompasses more of them than us. I have a suspicion, it is my suspicion, that he's doing this because of the drilling rights. Now, you might sit back and think, it doesn't matter what the drilling rights are. You're a geographic location where you're going to drill this. I think the law calls that a preponderance of evidence to say we are no longer in the Gulf of Mexico. We're in the Gulf of America. And we're going to start drilling there. I don't know if that's a rook to King's Knight 5 or however you do the chess thing, but man, that's a pretty bold statement. And for as much as a person who's got their butt kicked the last time they were in office, he spent his whole time defending himself because the left wanted to destroy him. And even you left should go out there and say that's disgusting, because he didn't even have a chance to do stuff. No more than Sleepy Joe did nothing in 4 years besides further apart his cause, put Sleepy Toe, Sleepy Camellia in office by being installed. If you've been listening to me, you know where I'm sitting on that. That should enrage everybody. And I think you guys have spoken. Absolutely, you have spoken. You have said, okay, Mr. Left Crazy Nutjob, you are not going to install this person without due process. You couldn't run. You bowed out, and all of a sudden, magically, you're in place. They don't work that way. It don't work that way. That's why Trump got his traction. Excuse me. Mr. POTUS got his traction because they were taking so much liberties away from you. You, the voter, you, the viewer. Again, in other countries, I get it. You guys were listening from Germany today, chimed in, and Denmark. Thank you for sending me that wonderful message. That's why I probably jumped on today and says, hey, we're going to do another one. And I just want to make sure we recognize you guys out there. And a couple of guys from Rwanda. Yes, I'm back on there. I didn't go nowhere. So back to the Dr. POTUS, Mr. POTUS. Mr. POTUS. He's got a plan. We won't know what that plan is. We can certainly veto those plans, so don't think that this is a blind opportunity for him to do what he wants and the rest of us shut our pie holes and that mind-blowing, falling in suit, crazy Hitler stuff that people are talking about on the left side. Because I can only imagine you people who are so deemed against this guy. How's it feel? How's it feel, you left-winger nut jobs? You've gone into hiding. You ain't even on social media talking crap anymore. You have shut your pie hole because you said it could never happen again. Well, it happened. And he proved you wrong. And he had the support of more than the majority of. Oh, yeah. I'm on the page, but I'm going to watch with a very, very close eye. He's not going to get away with weird shit. He can make it weird for himself if he was to go being stupid stuff like the left did, the crazy socialist democratic left. He can make it difficult on himself, and even the right can turn on him. Don't think that this is a one-way street for him to carte blanche run away, because it ain't. So this chess move, Gulf of America. Again, I didn't see it coming. We won't know the reason until he gets his oil rigs or his whatever's back in place. I mean, who is the largest producer of oil on the planet? The producer of oil now. If you go and do some homework and research on that, you're all thinking it's Kuwait or Saudi Arabia. Or whatever. Oh yeah, they got a shit ton. They got a lot of oil. But the United States is the number one producer of oil. But you never thought that, did you? Look it up. Google it. It's out there. It is not Saudi Arabia. We're just using up Saudi Arabia stuff because we don't want to use our own yet. Which, all that does is drive prices through the roof. It costs you more to get stuff to the stores. Personally, that don't make any sense. If we had the ability anyway, why are you not following through on this? You can get mad at both sides for this. Here in my hometown of an undisclosed location in Minnesota, we have a kind of a crap show going here in our House of Representatives. we had a Democrat lie on their affidavit for applicancy. So they don't have the certificate. You know, in a state, you have to have a certificate to be in a position. Once you have that certificate, not even a judge can take you out of it. Something short of a felony or something really big that could take you out of office, but then you'd have to invoke some pretty crazy laws. So this monkey guy decides to live somewhere, put down his residence as this, run for office, won the office. He won this office. A Republican calls him out on it and says, hey, you live over here. You don't live here. Well, I guess it's somewhat common practice that these people do this. In this state, you were supposed to live in the area and represent the people that you're in. I mean, that's just how it is. I would imagine it's that way in most states. Except this guy who thought he could break the rules. Because we had a whole lot of Democrats running this state. A whole lot. But this guy was the number one guy, the only guy who made it Democratic House. Dominant, predominant. Now, without his vote, and the Republican that can take over and win this flips that majority from Democrat to Republican. And the left has gone nuts. Now, let me tell you this from other states. We have a body of people that are representing us in the House. Their job is to take our needs and our pieces forward so that they can bring it to a House vote, and then it goes to a Senate. And sometimes a bill can ride dual between a Senate and a House at the same time. So the House guys work with the Senate guys to work in a bill, and then it ends up in an omnibus, and then they vote on the whole thing. And then we have law change. I mean, it's policy. It's setting policies. Except this new gig. So this guy was so sure that he wasn't going to get called on this rug, this Democrat, and say, well, I'm going to do this anyway. You don't like it, tough crap. It caught him. It caught him right there. The Republican who was running against him says, no, ain't going to do it. You don't live here. Your license don't even say it's here. You lied on an affidavit, which should be an automatic DQ in my book. Disqualified, Mr. Judge. Find someone else. So that's kind of what's going on here in the state of Minnesota. Certainly not my area, because I'd be jumping up and down. I'd have more three-letter agencies involved than you can count on to go in and undo this situation. But still, the Democrats now, the associates of this guy in Minnesota have decided not to show up and do their job. That's half. That's half of the people represented in this state. 50-50, we're 51%, so that guy was the 1% guy. Now, what are you going to do? Now, people who live local to me, you should be outraged, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. We're independent. The half of our house is missing right now because of why? Because they treated my friend unfairly because he lied on his affidavit. It's called DQ. What's wrong with these people? Look it up online. You just look at a picture of the house being separated between left and right. And the Republicans are all at work reporting for duty. But because they've got a certificate, they can't be fired. That's taxation without representation, people. That is the very reason why our Constitution was written the way it was. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. That's a Beretta thing from the 70s. Kind of a show I used to watch. But hey, you get the point. You should be outraged that this is happening. Write your congressman, write your senators, write your House of Representatives and say, are you the one staying home? Well, they say, P.S. The caveat to this is they're getting paid. That's right. They are absolutely getting paid to stay home on their own volition. Who's their boss? You are their boss. Be mad. Be really mad about that. Yeah, I can't write this stuff. And the more I listen, the more you get mad, and the more you get mad. So it's not your guys' job to go out and snoop this. It's your responsibility to snoop this information out. But it's kind of my job to break it down. And if I can break it down to a point where, hey, it makes more sense to you, it does make more sense, whatever, tune in, don't tune in. I would appreciate you tuning in and listening to how this is kind of working from the different point of view, from a government type of person. And I see this on a regular business day. That's not national politics. This is state politics. I can't even make this up. So Trump's movement to senators deciding not to show up on their own volition, to a senator that breaks into a familiar house of their family house and steals property, which is a felony, who's still serving, their time ain't up, who they can't get rid of. I don't even know what's going on there. I followed it for a while, and I'm like, they won't even fire their own for breaking the law. There's a kind of a thing. I don't know. You can't write this. Okay, what else? Let's shift some gear here. Okay, let's talk about, because you all know that I'm a big time 2A supporter. Big time 2A supporter. I'm as 2A as it gets. Let's see, we're 16 minutes into this segment. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a commercial break, and I'm going to come back with the POTUS and his 2A theory. So stand by, podcast. It's going to be another roller coaster of an episode. Stand by.
Buying a gun is no ordinary purchase. Whether you're a hunter, competitive shooter, or self-defense is your priority, there are many kinds of guns and many kinds of training programs. You use your brain all the time. You will rarely need to use your gun. Before you find yourself in a situation where you need to make a critical decision, make sure your training is the best you can get. It could be the difference between life and death, or freedom or detention. For the best quality training, check out permit2carry.us. If you live in Minnesota or Wisconsin or even Florida, give Gene German a call, 612-388-2403. That's permit2carry.us, or call Gene German at 612-388-2403.
Thanks for coming back, Podcast. All right, as I promised in the previous segment, the 2A thing, the POTUS 2A thing. Now, I've got a clip from ABC News, and I'm going to play that for you through my system. And let me pull it up here. All right, so this is about Donald Trump Jr. and what ABC News had to say about it. So stand by, I'm going to run this right at you.
As President-elect Donald Trump prepares to move back into the White House, gun violence prevention advocates are bracing for him to keep his campaign promise to sign a nationwide concealed carry reciprocity law. The move would allow gun owners with concealed carry permits to travel with their weapons to all 50 states, even those that do not honor out-of-state permit holders from doing so. 29 states already allow some form of concealed carry reciprocity, including some that only honor concealed carry permits from out-of-state gun owners if their state reciprocates. 9 states, including California, Connecticut, Illinois, New Jersey, and New York, and Washington, D.C., do not honor concealed carry permits from other states. The issue resurfaced over the weekend when Trump's son, Donald Trump Jr., posted a video on Instagram of his father vowing to sign legislation allowing concealed carry permit reciprocity nationwide. Boom, my father just announced full concealed carry reciprocity. The Second Amendment will stay and remain protected, Donald Trump Jr. wrote. In the February 2023 video, President-elect Trump outlined a 7-point plan to end crime and restore law and order, including enacting nationwide concealed carry reciprocity. I will protect the right of self-defense everywhere it is under siege, Trump said. Your Second Amendment does not end at the state line. Gun violence prevention groups are already gearing up for a new reciprocity battle. The biggest threat here is carrying a firearm across state lines without a permit. A piece that I really want to underscore is that law enforcement won't know who has firearms, Manisha Henley, Senior Vice President of Government Affairs for Everytown for Gun Safety, told ABC News. At least states including Florida, Alabama, Kentucky, Louisiana, and Georgia have adopted permitless carry rules, meaning no gun permits are necessary to carry concealed weapons if the gun owner meets age requirements and is not prohibited from possessing firearms. Gutting state gun laws just makes it easier for dangerous people to carry a hidden weapon with no training, with no questions asked, Henley said. Henley noted that gun violence prevention groups successfully fought Trump's efforts to loosen gun control laws during his first term in office. Some gun violence prevention groups said they fear the potential passage of nationwide concealed carry reciprocity is just the first step the incoming Trump administration will take to roll back policies established by President Joe Biden to curb the national plague of gun violence. During his victorious campaign, Trump and his running mate Sen. J.D. Vance voiced opposition to most of Biden's executive orders to combat the scourge that the Johns Hopkins Center for Gun Violence Solutions found to be the leading cause of death in the United States for adolescents under the age of 19 for 3 straight years. In May, Trump spoke at the NRA convention in Dallas and outlined some of the actions he intends to take in his second term. In my second term, we will roll back every Biden attack on the Second Amendment. The attacks are fast and furious, starting the minute that Crooked Joe shuffles his way out of the White House, Trump said in the speech. A day after the election, Chris Brown, president of the Brady Campaign to Prevent Gun Violence, said her group planning on doubling down in the fight to strengthen gun control laws. The movement to prevent gun violence has always been larger than one office, and will continue to work with activists, survivors, community leaders, and elected officials in states across the country to fight for progress that makes the whole country safer from gun violence, Brown said in a statement. Not the first time reciprocity has been proposed. During Trump's first term in the Oval Office, the Republican-controlled House passed the Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act with a vote of 231 to 198. However, the Democrat-controlled Senate killed the legislation. In his second term, Trump will have a Republican-controlled Senate. ABC News reported Wednesday that Republicans are projected to also retain control of the U.S. House of Representatives. In January 2023, Rep. Richard Hudson, RNC, reintroduced concealed carry reciprocity legislation, saying, "The Second Amendment does not disappear when crossing an invisible state line." The bill remains stalled in the House Committee on the Judiciary. The Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act protects law-abiding citizens' right to conceal carry and travel freely between states without worrying about conflicting state codes or onerous civil suits, Hudson said at the time he introduced the legislation. "I am especially proud to have such widespread and bipartisan support for this measure, as I continue working to get this legislation over the finish line." Pat Harrigan, an Army veteran and Republican who won election last week to represent North Carolina's TH congressional district, took to Instagram on Monday to voice support for nationwide reciprocity. "President Trump is right. Just because we cross state lines does not mean that we should lose our Second Amendment rights," Harrigan said in a video statement on Instagram. "If we want safer communities, we should pass national 50-state concealed carry reciprocity, and I'll be right there next to President Trump."
What do you think of that one? Right? Okay, so this file I got from you was for a ABC News write-up. It's online, you can find it. I had my AI Bob play it for you, and I want you to hear it. I want you to hear it directly from someone else's point of view. Now, 2A is not a thing that a state can control. 2A is not a thing that a federal government can control. 2A is a thing that has been inalienate rights to us as a founder of a group, a company, a country of rights has brought to us. And that's how we live. That's how we live our lives as a 2A guy. There's no ambiguity between someone who thinks that this is a thing. We all know there's a violence problem, but they seem to be putting the same thing in front of it. If you listen to my show in the past, this ain't a gun problem. This is a mental health problem. Because no one of sound mind, of common sense, solves issues with guns unless the diplomacy has run out, i.e. like our government. All of them. They're going to handle stuff. They're going to take care of business. If you don't listen, we're going to turn up the volume. And the volume for them is a weapon. It's a gun. It's you will follow suit, or you will suffer the consequences. Why should that matter if it's a federal government doing that, or if it's a local government, or if it's a police state? I mean, it's the same gig. Well, if you just happen to be on the wrong side of that, then guess what? You're in a suck spot. There's nothing you can do about it. And then no more than you can take our guns away from us as a suck spot for you guys. But as a strong stop, Republican 2A member, I wouldn't say Republican, common sense. Common sense, Rian. I am. You can't take those rights from us. You don't have that right to take from us. Trump's just giving it back because you tried taking it. You tried doing it. You tried democrating it out of control. And he comes back and says, no. That ain't what our forefathers wrote. And you might have a different opinion. Go ahead. Call it in. Leave me a hate message. I don't care. I've got plenty of hate messages. You're just one of thousands I ignore. I'll read about 2 minutes into it or 2 seconds into it and say, yeah, we're done with this guy. You might have a different point of opinion, but you can't do it by attacking. You don't attack me with it. Just tell me what your thoughts are. You want to have a conversation? Go ahead. I'm adult enough to know that, and you should be adult enough not to attack me so I can read it and respond to you. It gets you nowhere. See, back to the old point. Violence gets you nowhere until all diplomacy is run out. Again, like our government. So what do you think about that? You people out there that are gun people. Even if you're not gun people. Let's say I was not a gun person. And they want to take your rights away, your vote to rights away. Let's spin this down to a little situation now. Let's look at this DEI stuff. Your right to be a DEI is totally on you. Your right to love a guy or a gal if you're the same-sex person is totally up to you, because there are only two sexes. You want to argue that's your problem? I'm not listening. There are two. You want to love the same sex? It's on you. I don't care. What happens in your bedroom is none of my business. And that's what Trump's going for. There are two sexes. You want to keep pushing DEI and keep hugging and holding your feelings. Again, you shouldn't discriminate against someone who has that type of agenda, but nor should you try and force your agenda upon the rest of us who don't believe in your agenda. Although it's yours, you're not going to get hired because of it. It's bullshit. You're not going to have the same opportunity as that. Is still bull. Come on, people. This is still common sense. Have some. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. Focus. These people have their rights too, and their right to the freedom of they want to love a goat. That's on them. It ain't what Trump is proposing with this DEI woke crap. You don't care about it. But what he does care about is when you guys trying to stick it in our behinds and thinking that we should accept you for this DEI woke thing. I got a question, and someone had posted to me a long time ago. They sent me an email, and I've talked about it in the past. And it all boils down to, how can we accept you for who you are when you can't accept you for who you are? I.e., a male, a female, a billy goat, whatever. Think about that. Pause your stopping, thinking, and say, really, how do you want us to do it when you can't do it? It's on you. I have the opinion of if it's on you, it's on you. If it doesn't work for you, don't blame anybody. It's still on you. If I do something that don't work and I get in a pickle, it's on me. I suck it up, move along, lick my wounds, and figure out what I did wrong for next time. So DEI, so LGBTQRS, but all this other stuff. You're doing the same stuff over and over and over and over when no one really cared. That's why you guys got more traction than us who didn't care, is because you want to jump up and down on it. You might say I'm a homophobic. You might say I don't care what your verbs are for me. It don't mean nothing. What should make sense is if it's yours and it's your thing, it makes you happy, leave us out of it. I don't care. Nobody does care. Only you care. You might get picked on. Oh, of course you're going to get picked on. Nobody wants to. I mean, nobody goes out and sets this. It's stupid if you pick on somebody. It just tells you a lot about that person. So, DEI. I hope Trump comes in and totally ruins your day because you've been sticking it out on our throat for quite a while. And you keep wanting us to accept you when you can't even accept yourself. How's that? We have certain family members in our family. Didn't want to go here, but I will go here because it's fairly current in our situation, and these particular people feel that they were isolated and shunned against. And they drug people's names into it they probably shouldn't have. But yet, here we are, talking about it. Now, let's say you're an 80-year-old woman. This is what happened. And someone didn't like what happened 60 years ago. But yet, a family member of 58, 60 years of age wants to remind you of it some 60 years later, when it didn't even involve him. That even makes sense to you? What are you going to know at 80? Sure, they lived it. They were there. They don't forget it. If they're of sharp mind, they do. And this particular family member is one of these liberal lefts who thinks that we should accept everybody because they tell them to. Well, you can't stop personal biases. You can't have this cake and eat it too sometimes. But this person wanted to do that. I want to write this letter and hey, this is what's happening. I feel this way. I feel this way. The only time you get letters like that is when someone's talking to their shrink and saying, hey, you should probably write a letter to someone who's offended you in the past and you should put this out there. Talk to your therapist and tell them they're stupid. That's wrong. Go talk to yourself. That's what your therapist is for. Go tell them your feelings. We don't care. Yeah, you heard me right. We don't care. Go tell your feelings to somebody else who gives a crap 60 years later. And as far as the rest of the letter goes, hey, be more of a parent. Of a common sense, logical parent, and you won't have the problems you do have. You brought that stuff on yourself, just like everybody else in your life. You never blame everybody else like a narcissist. This certain person hates the POTUS with the utmost fury and prejudice, and yet he acts just like him. But you don't see that because you can't see when you're wrong. You can't see that. So spinning back to the show here, things happen. Things change. 2A is going to change. 2A is going to change a lot. I'm okay with that. Change is good. We can't accept them because they think that gun violence is a gun violence and it's the gun that's the violence when it was never the gun. It was never the gun. No more than it's the hammer or the stick or whatever weapon that you decide to call it a day. Stop making it what it isn't and listening to what it is. Minneapolis has a program that they put in, that they call before they call the police, which I don't know how it's going because I haven't heard crap out of it lately. And I can only expect it's not working too well because if it did work, they'd be toting it up like it's the best thing since sliced bread, which it is not. You get a domestic disturbance call. You get a call on the 911 system. Someone comes out to your house, has a conversation with you, and tries to de-escalate it. That's great and super and all if you go to a scene before the police where there is an unsecured scene. You don't know if this guy's got a weapon. You don't know if he's got a hammer he's going to hit you in the head with. You don't know how mental he could be. I don't know. I don't think I'd want to be on that bus. You're up in a very toxic situation. You roll up on some South Minneapolis address. There's people around watching you. You walk in, hey, I'm with the Feel Better Good Institute, and I want to help you. You're sending shrinks to houses? What nut job thought that up? Oh, it's to lessen police violence. Until they become the violence. You're on their front step, now you're assaulted. Who are you going to call now? Just the assaulted call one of their associates? Hey, I'm feeling kind of sad now they got my ass beat. How does that work? And how many, I don't even know what you want to call these people, psychologists do you send before you actually call the police and handle this? Is there a limit? I mean, do we have like a psychology limit when you're going to the front door? Hey, I'm number 3, you're number 4, so maybe at 6 we should start calling the police and get this guy under control because obviously talking to him ain't going to work. That ain't a 2A thing. That's a 2 brains less thing. I appreciate you out there. I tell you what, this world's a crazy thing. Sometimes you can't write this. Sometimes it writes itself. Let's pay attention to the world stage now. POTUS gets in, and he says, I'm going to do this, this, and this, and this. And he's following through on his XOs. He's writing a lot of them. He's going to the utmost degree of saying, we're going to wipe out this insane crap and bring America back to where it should be. And it's on an XO. I was kind of against XOs with the last guy because it was too easy, to pardon his whole family. He precog pardoned people for crimes they haven't committed yet so that they can go against them. The get out of jail free card Sleepy Joe did for everybody that had anything to do with Biden, because they were so badly kicking POTUS's butt, current POTUS, that he had a vengeance to do. Well, if you recognize the fact that you got to pardon your people, all of your people, because POTUS now has an axe to grind, then you probably should recognize that you did some stuff you shouldn't have done. Yeah, you're probably doing stuff you shouldn't have been doing to the previous POTUS. And really, you're going to use the law to protect you? There's why POTUS has to do what he has to do. Think about that as a whole. Think about it as a whole thing. I'm going to pardon everybody because he vowed to get even. Why? Yeah. He's getting even because that's what you were doing for the last 4 years. You know, I always tell you in life, never pick on someone who's way smarter than you because you're just too dumb to figure it out. And that's what they did. Now, back to the 2A thing with this. Why not? Why not have what we have to do? Now, on the big stage of Earth, we're starting to get prisoners released that were tied up for under Sleepy Joe's thing. Yeah. Whoa, wow, Jerusalem listening. Hamas is listening. People are paying attention. World figures want to come in and say, hey, let's not poke this bear. The most powerful country on the planet. And you want to poke that bear? Now let's see what Zelensky does. This would be kind of interesting, won't it? Zelensky modeled himself after the U.S. and this woke agenda. And I've got some people coming in from Ukraine, Poland, that eastern area, and they're going to come in. I'm trying to get them on a show in person, and you talk to them on the phone, and they just absolutely disdain this guy. They disdain these people that act like us, the previous us. Let me correct that. And they want a common sense approach. They're no different than us. We want the same thing, just under different leadership. I can't wait to see Zelensky's face now. You see all these little cartoons and memes online where it's Zelensky trying to get a hold of Sleepy Joe, and Joe's running away from the phone, and he can't even get a phone call into him. Yeah. Yeah. That's probably pretty true. You always find truth and humor in realism. Actual realism. Yeah. I don't know what to tell us, you guys. I mean, I would say hang on, focus, pay attention to what's going to happen in these next couple days. It's going to be very critical. This show drops at Sunday at 5, and that gives us 2 more days to see what Trump does. I'm guessing from here. I hope he pushes through on the reciprocity thing. I hope he gets some of this other stuff out of the way. He's already kicked DEI's behind. I don't agree with him sending them home and paying them thing, but again, that's got to be a chess move. Hey, go home, you're getting paid, and then when you're all at home and you're all tied up at home, you don't come in. Oh, by the way, we're stopping your checks too. Makes sense to me. Go home, you're happy. You'll leave nicely without pulling your guns out, your 2A's out, and making everybody happen. So this way, you take your Democrat woke behinds home, your DEIs. And you say, oh, yeah, hey, let's go home. I'm getting paid for it, and be happy to go home, get paid. And then you get the axe. Dude, that's some next level stuff there. That's smart thinking. Give them the impression that you're going to go home all good. We're going to furlough this program, and all of a sudden you're going to get kapow right between the eyes. Yep. Absolutely okay with that. So Hudcast had a lot to look at the last couple of weeks, months. Had some time off. Enjoyed my time off. Been pretty crazy at my other job. My Facebook stuff's going really well. Thank you for that, everybody out there. My following's even increased more. We're 104 countries now, last we checked. And I'm I'm getting more as it speaks. So we're going to continue to go out and reach out to everybody that we can. I hope that this brings you some solace in your world, your country, your spiritual world, whatever it is. I hope we can help a little, because it's only one person's view, one person's opinion. Yeah, kind of what we are. All right, then. I'll tell you what, 24 minutes into this segment. Okay, we're going to pull the pin. Thanks again, everybody. And until next time, pay attention to your government. Let's see what this world's going to rock next time. Hutcast is gone for the day. Be well, everybody.
And that's a wrap for Hutcast. Hutcast is, again, a pragmatic approach to seeing things how some people see them. If you like our show, give us a thumbs up on the Facebook site. Again, for Hutcast, thank you again. Have a wonderful evening.